Hello, my name is Vince Borses, and for my digital storytelling project, uh, I am doing a book review of Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. This is a classic, and one of my favorite classics that I've ever read, and I found this to be the subject of my review because it's one of my books, and as I went through this course, I found a lot of uh, similarities or common subjects that came from the book to the course, and it really resonated the themes really resonated with me and the course I noticed. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking a look through a lens of pre-colonial African heritage and the devastating impact of colonial intrusion on the indigenous social structures. To begin, we're in 19th century pre-colonial Nigeria, specifically in the village of Umuofia, far from being a primitive society described in colonial history books, but it's a very sophisticated and deeply traditional society. Here, social status is a meritocracy where men achieve prestige through Ozo titles that signify wealth and power. However, it is also a world where hypermasculinity is valued greatly, often leaving the contributions of women overlooked. So here's our protagonist, Okonkwo. He is a powerful, wealthy, and physically dominant warrior who earned his Ozo title through strength. His daily life is driven by a fierce hatred of his father's perceived failures, leading to fatal flaws. For one, an inability to accept change and an obsession with masculinity that often manifests as violence. His unraveling begins as the expansion of British colonialism in Nigeria forces a collision with his rigid worldview, leading to a tragic loss of identity and respect. And then, further, having him lose his family and eventually leading to his demise. So, as we move to the middle of the story, we see the primary source of external conflict, the introduction of the Christian missionaries. This creates a socio-ideological battle between Okonkwo's traditionalistic desires and the prolific nature of the church. We see a clear division from between those who resist, like Okonkwo, and those who adapt, most notably his son, Nonwoye, uh, whose conversion breaks down Okonkwo's very foundation of power as he goes into his own belief, following his belief in Christianity, leaving his father behind, who wants rigid power and rigid uh, adherence to his beliefs and wanting everyone to stick to whatever he believes in as well. So this transition marks the decay of traditional Igbo society as British legal systems overtake the Igugu, which is Umofa, Umofia's political and judicial system. This is a critical social justice issue where village leaders are humiliated and arrested, and power shifts from communal consensus to colonial dictation. The setting of Okonkwo's home becomes unrecognizable as indigenous laws are silenced by foreign administration. Achebe's narrative is vital to African studies because of events in Omofia reflect the accurate experiences of native Africans across a continent where colonialism was widespread. These historical events led to diaspora and displacement akin to the African American experience we have studied this semester. This classic piece of literature remains a cornerstone for understanding how post-colonialism in the 19th century shaped the Africa we see today. So here are the personal takeaways I had from the story and how I thought it could apply to the course as well. Uh, it centers on the dangers of rigidity and complexity of individual identity. Okonkwo's story illustrates that downfall often stems from inability to adapt to inevitable change. Furthermore, the novel provides a nuanced view of colonialism, showing how it tore apart the social fabric and beliefs of the indigenous people. Ultimately, it teaches that history and personal actions are complex. Advocacy requires flexibility and empathy. And here are my citations for this book: the textbook, Chinua Achebe's book. I just looked through his notes and some literature about the time. Thank you so much for listening to my analysis and review of Things Fall Apart. Again, I'd probably give this like a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite books. If you have not read it yourself, I suggest you definitely read it. Thank you. Bye bye.